Well, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to this fourth and final panel discussion of Excellence by Vendôme presented by Glion. And for this session, we're going to go trend spotting to try and give you some pointers towards the future of the luxury industry and the brands that call it home. Some of the things we'll be hoping to talk about will be the impacts of generational change, digitalization, and the increasing crossover between the worlds of luxury and hospitality, which is something that we at Glion have been following pretty closely, and we've also incorporated some of that into our academic studies. Now, to give their thoughts on these topics, I am delighted to welcome a panel that will help me cover all the angles. To my left, my first guest, Antoine Ménard, is the Chief Creative Officer of Paris Society, which is now part of Accor's Ennismore lifestyle luxury sector. And it's also one of the world's most active hospitality groups. Paris Society is, among other things, Gigi Rigolato, Giraffe, Rasputin Clubs, and Le Refuge du Soleil in the French Alps, among many other iconic venues. And in his role, Antoine is responsible for creating new brands and hospitality experiences to add to that family. Next to Antoine is Marie-Pierre Morelle. Now, she is the Director Europe Travel Trade for the leading hotels of the world. Now, since she took on this role in 2020, having previously been Director of Sales for Le Meurice, Dorchester Collection, and Shangri-La Hotel Paris. And Marie-Pierre joins us having celebrated a banner year for leading hotels of the world in 2023, contributing to what is 31 successive months of business growth. And my final guest is Fabrice Gautron. Now, his consulting experience spans just about every segment of the luxury industry, including jewelry, fashion, accessories, beauty, hospitality, and travel. He's managed teams of more than 1,500 people while leading and motivating members of executive committees across different countries. And for the past 4 years, he's been with the global consulting firm Roland Berger. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming my three wonderful panel guests. Okay, I'll sit down now. And thank you all once again for joining us for this panel. And the first trend I want to talk about is generational change. It's the change in the guard between the generations, Gen X, Gen Alpha, etc. And I'll start with you, if I may, Fabrice. Now, you have a lot of conversations, I'm sure, as a consultant with luxury operators. How big a topic is generational change when you're having those discussions, and what are the aspects of that you tend to talk about the most?
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I think we try to focus with the consumers we have, globally, I would say, on different topics. The first one is actually the consumer preferences. And they're very diverse. And you mentioned actually this shift and this difference in the different generations, meaning Gen Z and millennials on the one hand, and the Gen X and the boomers on the other hand. And that actually explains a lot of the work that we have to do, because of course you don't address the needs of these different categories, I would say, and different customers the same way. So this is the point number one. I think as well, what we face and the challenges we're consulted for are the challenges on the technology. Technology adoption is really something that is top of mind, I would say, for many companies, whether it be in luxury retail or in hospitality. You don't address a client of 55 years old who has time, who has money, who wants to travel, who wants to stay in a hotel, and the Gen Z or millennials who maybe have less time, who want to travel as well, but who have an appetite, I would say, for luxury brand and hospitality, which is very different from the former group. Deriving from this, the marketing strategies, of course, are much more difficult, and you can't have the same, and you really need to be agile, and this is what we explain to all our clients. You just cannot have one single strategy. I mean, that doesn't work, of course, which means that coincidentally, you need to have a policy in terms of innovation and adaptation, which is completely different in this sector if you want to preserve as well the brand per se and not make too many mistakes, I would say, that would probably be an issue for the long term. And then the last time, we discussed, I think that we discussed a lot about the personalization. And this is, one point that I will probably focus on, and actually hyper-personalization, because I think luxury hospitality is a lot about hyper-personalization and will be even more in the future. Sustainability will be another point. But I'm sure we'll address this.
Yeah. I look forward to coming back on that personalization point, because, as you say, it's a big trend. Now, Antoine, if I can actually turn to you next, as I mentioned in the introduction, you get involved with the creation of these concepts basically from start to finish, right from the outset and all the way through, from the very first steps. Is demographics a factor when you're building the sort of the concepts and who they're aiming for? Is it a factor? How big a factor? And how do you sort of work those generational differences into your thinking?
Yeah, thank you. Is it a factor? Yes, it is. This is not the main factor. We try to do, when we are building new brands, we try to build what I call timeless and multi-generational experience and brands. But we do take into consideration this factor when we build, for instance, Bambini vis-à-vis Gigi. We build it for another generation, a younger crowd, and we take that in consideration on the multi-dimensional way we build the brands. So that means the furniture is not the same, the type of furniture, the food is not the same, the way we serve the food in terms of sharing, the music is different, the stylists for the outfit are different. So we try to keep something very coherent, coherent vis-à-vis the price and coherent vis-à-vis the generation. But what is interesting also, we opened our first countryside hotel a few months ago with the Abbaye des Vaux-de-Cernay, and we observe that our clientele today of a luxury hotel, a lifestyle luxury hotel, is really different what it was 20 or 30 years ago. 20 or 30 years ago, the main clientele was probably 50, 60, 70 years old. Why? Because people were using to have children, build a career, and after that traveling in luxury places. What we observe today is that we have some 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old people coming in our luxury places. And we do have 40 years old people coming with young children and family. So we took in consideration the family also in our luxury experience.
And Marie-Pierre, I'm going to jump into you for the second, but just before I do, Antoine, I'm just curious, because just to pick up on what you said about how you tailor these things a little bit. Have you ever actually been surprised that a concept has ended up appealing to a completely different age group? Have you ever had a situation where you've been sort of surprised by how these things eventually landed?
So we were surprised, but we were surprised for Bambini, for instance. We sold Bambini for a younger crowd, and at the end our clientele, more agey, used to go, and they say that's great, that's a place in Paris society we can go more casual, even on a Sunday night, just having and sharing a pizza, and we were not waiting for this clientele, who is our clientele of our more luxury brands, coming in this more casual, cool, family style, lifestyle brands.
Interesting, thank you. So, Marie-Pierre, Antoine touched on hospitality and the changing demographics of hospitality, particularly on the luxury side, which is where you're very much placed. How would you characterize the typical demographic for leading hotels of the world properties, and how does that influence the way you're developing this brand, this portfolio, and the way the sales channels that you develop for it?
It's interesting, and I hope I'm not going to disappoint you, but actually we don't really take care of the demographic.
Okay.
We are really looking for curious travelers. That's what we are looking for, and it could be a family, could be married, could be retired. Our collection is really looking to serve our hotels. As you know, we are a curated collection of 400 independent luxury hotels, majority family-owned, and we dedicate also our development and portfolio of the brand to serve the collection of the hotel. So the first way we recruit hotel, it's actually by our members. It's our current members who recommend our hotels. The second part will be actually direct family contacting leading hotels to enter the collection. And don't get me wrong, we know who are our clients. Mm-hmm. And for example, we are developing our portfolio in US, China, and also South America, because we have seen an unmet demand from these particular travelers. We catch their travels, long-haul travels, but we are missing a huge opportunity for their local travelers, for their regional travels. So we are developing our portfolio in that part also.
Mm. And is there a sort of a personality for a leading hotel of the world? Do you have, I mean, I'm not saying like kind of criteria and standards, not going down that route, but I mean, if you want to sort of pin a personality to a typical hotel, is there such a thing? Do you try and curate a kind of brand personality?
It's hard also. Take me as an example. Sometimes I'm a solo business traveler. Sometimes I'm traveling with my family. Sometimes with a group of friends, and I'm looking for different things. So we need really to answer all these needs. And again, we are really focusing to serve our independent hotel, to stay independent. That's really the DNA of the brand. So very different from the other big names in the industry for almost 100 years now.
Interesting. And staying with you, Marie-Pierre, because one of the other, but I will come on to the other panelists as well, but another trend that we've seen very much coming to the fore over the last handful of years is the move of luxury goods operators, traditional luxury goods brands, into the world, directly into the world of hospitality, either overtly, as with like a Bulgaria Hotels kind of thing, or perhaps a little bit more under the radar with Chopard opening one plus Vendôme quite recently. You're on the inside of luxury hospitality. What's your take on this phenomenon, on this crossover? And if you like, how big a challenge is it to the traditional hospitality segment?
It keeps us busy, I'm not going to lie, but it's a big opportunity for us because actually Leading has been doing that for almost 100 years. Soft brand, luxury brands are investing lots of money in the last couple of years, and we are not surprising. As you mentioned, 10, 15 years ago, to travel in luxury hotels, meaning I'm not going to say name, in Paris, big brands, big chains names represent luxury. Today's luxury customers are looking for personalization, mindful stay. They want something to enrich them personally. And it's what we have been doing with leading hotel of the world. And being said that, we see also that lots of our own family hotels are very close with luxury goods brands. And I have some examples. Maybe some of you actually enjoyed it last summer. Palazzo Avino totally revamped its swimming pool with Maison. I have a blank moment. I need my note. You see, that's why I have my note. I'm going to jump on another example with Puente Romano and Fendi. They totally revamped that beach club during summer. So it's not a challenge, but it's a big opportunity to have these brands coming to our world of luxury. And we already have great partnerships.
Yes, it's something in a way that you're embracing, or your hoteliers are actually embracing it and living with it rather than...
And offering unique experience also, as we all do, actually. So
because it adds something different. I mean, even if it's like a capsule or some other sort of collaboration, it just adds that little extra, doesn't it? That sort of je ne sais quoi, I could say, or something in Paris.
Some priceless experience, something that you can't really buy and access.
Yeah. Fabrice, what's your take? I mean, you've worked both with luxury goods, high-end hospitality. You've seen both sides of this equation. What's your take on it? Do you think it was an inevitable development this was going to happen?
I don't know if it was inevitable. I think it's great to say it. I think that we all are aware that when you do an analysis on the last 20 years, we were just exceeding the roaring 20s, as we call them, in luxury. with a lot of brands and maisons having a lot of money. And actually, when we wouldn't think of it, the pandemic has even reinforced the amount of cash that these luxury brands had. Just because, of course, there was no traffic, but people just went online, and they were even more addicts. And actually, people didn't spend because they just couldn't work. They couldn't travel, so the money was available to buy some, handbags and so many other products as well, being fashion accessories, from eyewear, etc. So at the end of the day, these years, the last 2 or 3 years, and actually 4 years now, were fantastic and a boom, I would say, and a booster for all luxury brands. We know that Bulgari was probably, with Jean-Christophe Babin, one of the first, if not the first, to create, a luxury hotel. And I think, this will become even more, something that we'll see in the future. You mentioned, other examples. I've got as well very recently something that nobody was really expecting, the family Clarins, whom we know very well. And they've just invested in the Evoque group of hotels, which is like 16 to 20 hotels approximately. So it's not a big number, but that proves many things. The first thing is that, of course, it's a diversification of their revenues. And it's always good not to put, as we say, all the eggs in the same basket. So that's first a good thing. And as well, of course, it's a brand extension. And at a time when basically you need to reinforce your presence, but not only online, but as well, on social media, but as well physically, and we'll discuss probably this point, later on with the phygital and digital points. I think that, this is a great opportunity for them. They have some money to invest. There are some properties available in the market. And when you think of it from a marketing standpoint, there is a lot to build in common between hospitality and luxury retail. The third point, and I'm going to try to be quick on this one, is meeting the evolving customer expectations. The customer and the client of a luxury brand wants to have a seamless experience from the start when he usually consults online until the end when sometimes he wants to enjoy a nice vacation with friends or with family. And this path in the end is something that luxury brands have understood, and they want to play a part there. There is another point that we can't forget, is that this is a huge and a fantastic point to cross-pollination of the customer base. Think of it. You're going in a store. You will spend what? An hour in the store? Maybe 2 hours if you want really to try on many things, etc. If you go to a hotel, basically you will say arrive at 3 or 4 p.m. You will probably have a drink, maybe have dinner. Maybe ask the concierge about what you could do in the country or in the region or even in the city, etc. You will stay overnight. You will have your breakfast. If the hotel does a great job, which I'm sure hotels do great jobs, they will make sure that they capture all this information. And you can imagine if 2 or 3 days later or even 2 weeks later, when you come to a store, maybe you'll have the drink that you were not expecting to find in the store, but basically because you took this drink in the hotel 2 or 3 weeks before, this drink will be waiting for you. And that's fantastic in terms of customer relationship management, of course. So that's a great move for all these luxury brands because they just complement the path of a customer throughout his life. And that's the fantastic point. The last one is just that a luxury brand now has, like any other brand, to differentiate. And if you want to differentiate, you need to do something which is very different from the others. And many luxury brands will not go into this luxury hospitality sector. Some have decided to go and will be, I'm sure, very successful, provided that a few points are covered, which we'll discuss later in terms of phygital, digital, and a few other things.
Sure. And I think it's a really important point, that idea that actually, in many ways, they're singing to the same customer base. There is so much crossover between them. So it's a natural, there's a natural ease of actually dealing with effectively the same people. So Antoine, I want to get your take on this trend as well, of, the luxury brands are coming out to play when it comes to lifestyle experiences. Has that changed the dynamic in your part of the industry at all? And does it alter your thinking when you and your team are coming up with concepts? Has it changed the game for you at all?
So, of course, it has changed. This is a fantastic opportunity for the sector. This is a fantastic opportunity as a guest to experience these places. And this is great to see that hospitality, hotel and restaurant and cafe are a very, very good way for these brands to recreate a physical link with their consumer. And there's no best way to do that. What that has changed for us is funny that we are doing the opposite today. We don't have, they have notoriety and they use that notoriety to create physical experience in a hotel and restaurant. We create notoriety through our brands, hotel and restaurant, and trying to make our concept becoming a brand and iconic brands. We try to bring some content in our brands. What we did at Gigi, for instance, in Saint-Tropez, we decided not to open only a restaurant. So we use our narrative to create a strong experience and a 360 experience. I used to say Gigi is not an Italian restaurant, Gigi is an Italian guy hosting in his house. So we wrote 200 pages of Gigi life and Gigi test. And we did not open a restaurant, we opened a beach house. And in this beach house, we opened a kids club, the Gigi Circus. We opened some wellness stunts, we opened a bar, we opened a pool, we opened, of course, a restaurant, and we opened a shop, and we opened a concept shop. And we build a brand through these shops and through products that is the opposite thinking of the other brand. But that's able us to be in our consumer heads, not only for 1 hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours moment for lunch or dinner, but that's able us to be in our consumer baskets and bring them us back to home with them.
So in a way, sort of moving the paradigm in the opposite direction to the luxury brands, in that you're starting with the hospitality and then bringing in the goods into it.
And trying to go on a digital.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah, yeah. And out of interest, actually, veering slightly off script, because you were talking about obviously creating new concepts. Of all the concepts you've been involved with so far with Paris Society, what's been the one? What's your favourite? What's the one that's given you the most satisfaction?
It's really difficult to answer that question. It's like telling you who's my favorite kid. I do have one secretly. No, but. We always love the last one we opened. I think so. Gigi was one of my favorite, because we brought Gigi to a multi-dimensional environment. We have this urban version of Gigi in Avenue Montaigne. We have the beach house, and we have the mountain version in Val d'Isère. But the two last one we opened have a special place in my heart. There is the Abbaye de Vaud-Cernay, which was for us to show our vision of countryside luxury hotel. We did that without any hotel knowledge, which make us so special, which makes the place so difficult to operate also. And Maxim's is also special. That was probably the most difficult exercise for me, because that was an existing brand, and that was a monument in Paris. So taking Maxim's to bring it to life again was something special, and we spend a lot of times in Maxim's archives to rebuild what has been built before.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you, Marie-Pierre.
I just want to see some parallels, but also very different from what you just said about Gigi, that you were writing 200 pages of stories, etc. And it's really a parallel with leading hotel of the world, where we have hotels family-owned for more than 200 years. And actually, we are doing the same thing. We are telling stories of the history, and you are right on the story, but for the same goals, offering experience to our clients, to maximize also opportunities, but in the same way of wanted to deliver priceless souvenir for our guests.
Yeah, and bringing probably some authenticity. Some hotel come and see us and say, could you give us some advice to make a restaurant successful? Because we took a phenomenal chef and we took a phenomenal architect, so our restaurant is beautiful, our food is very good, but the restaurant is not working well. Because I do think that hotel and restaurant and hospitality in general are about experience and complete experience. This is not only about design and food quality. That's why we put the design, the food quality, same level as the music, the entertainment, the staging, the outfits, and all the outward component, the guest experience.
That's interesting. Just to bounce back to you on that authenticity point, Fabrice, because I mean, you will no doubt have advised all sorts of clients and on how best to sort of appeal to their customers. And as our other two panelists said, authenticity is a big part of luxury. It's a big part of the promise of luxury. So how does one go about being authentic? I mean, is there a process, or is it just something that comes naturally from doing everything else well? What's your experience of that?
I think the process is probably very different actually from a hotel which has been live since 1850, for instance. I'm thinking of your hotels and hotel newly created. But I think this is the same process, which is if you want to create the link and if you want to make sure you're in connection with your customers, you need to have a story. And this is where we're back to luxury retail. It's all about storytelling. And I remember in my former career, I've been recruiting some housekeepers from the hospitality industry to manage the not only the welcoming part of the stores, but as well just to manage the relationship with the clients. And I think you've got a lot of bridges between luxury retail and luxury hospitality. When you mention authenticity, I think this is extremely true, especially, and we'll discuss probably later when we discuss quiet luxury. This is one key point, I would say, that you need to ensure is in place, I would say. If not, you just lose your concept and it's not going to work.
Yeah. And is it the same, that idea that hospitality service contributing to the authenticity, that must presumably be a big factor across
really the DNA of what we are doing for 80 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned quiet luxury, because it has been something of the talk of the town across the last year, and I'm very grateful for Antoine in my conversation with him before this event of mentioning it, so that I could make sure I put it on my topics list. So thank you for that. And given that you were the person that came up with it, I'll go to you first, Antoine, if I may. How significant is this trend becoming? And if you like, I know it sort of started in the fashion world, but is it having an increasing resonance in hospitality as well as in the kind of fashion and goods world?
Yeah, I think it's coming more and more in hospitality also. And this is about authenticity and creates true stories that bring some strength to the experience more than the decor. This is something that we experiment in the Abbey de Vaud-Cernay. We used to say that we are luxury, but we are not luxury by bringing some more gold in the room, but by bringing some more experience and cool experience. So that's something that's a real trend that we work on, to be sure that we create timeless places, and that's coming quite naturally in our places, because we are telling stories and true stories.
Sure. Fabrice?
Yeah, I think on this point of quiet luxury in luxury hospitality, it's very different from luxury retail. I think it's, you can't compare, and I'm not going to name them, but everybody probably knows them. There's a beautiful tower just outside of Dubai, which is a specific type of hotel, let's put it this way. When you compare it with another very known hotel in Mauritius Island, which was called at some point the only 6 stars hotel, you just can't compare them. On the one hand, and I'm not trying to actually, and everyone, every hotel has its place, I would say. But quiet luxury and luxury hospitality for us, when we advise companies, it's all about quality of craftsmanship. It's about timelessness as well. It needs to be not like, one buzz for the moment, I would say, but something which lasts, because this is what the customer is looking for. It needs to be as well, we discussed it, authenticity, which means that there is a huge effort which needs to be put in, for instance, the furniture within the hotel. Let me explain. When we know we've got some beautiful hotels in beautiful chains, and I'm glad that nobody here on this stage is part of one of these chains, and they do actually beautiful, designs, but that is not quiet luxury. Quiet luxury would be about, authenticity. Why not in a 200 years hotel with maybe, people having crafted the beds and the furniture of the room, and preferably, because we discuss sustainability, say 50 yards away or 50 kilometers away, that's enough, from the hotel. The amenities will be completely sustainable, so we're not going to have all these plastic bottles that we used to have. Why not being crafted by some local communities as well? So for me, this is quiet luxury, and it's not only for me, of course, but this is what we call quiet luxury in luxury hospitality. It's very specific, and the last point, which makes it all, is exclusivity. It cannot be copied. It's unique, and it's completely unique. I mean, you just cannot copy it, and that is what will make it so special. And I think we are, lucky to have in the market either, large chains doing their job, but when you come to the luxury segment, it's all about again the experience. And Antoine mentioned it, and I think this is all about it. It needs to be exclusive. It needs to be unique, so that you have a storytelling as well about it, and your customer buys into it. And there is a bond between the client and the hotel, and usually with the people working in the hotel, sometimes for many, many years.
Yeah. I will give you an anecdote from the Abbey. Actually, three. The first one is when we built the Abbey, we ask the workers and the architect on site to make the wood floor cracking. Oh. And it says that the first time in my life, the architect said that a client asked me to make the floor cracking. Usually this is the opposite. So this type of authenticity we want to bring. And two other original guest experience that we brought to the Abbey that put us on a luxury stage. The first one is to ensure the fact that when you're coming back at home as a Parisian on a Sunday night, your fridge is empty. So we put a food truck at the reception with pre-prepared a meal for Sunday night and fresh fruits and vegetables, etc. And all the guests are taking some to go back at home. And the second one, if you have kids, you know that the homework you have to do for them on Monday is something who can bring you some stress during your weekend. So we have a teacher every Sunday morning for 2 hours in the Abbey. And this is type of what I call the quiet luxury.
Yeah. Marie-Pierre, from certainly the things that Fabrice was saying, those definitions, it sounds like it's kind of right up your street as a...
It's exactly echoing what we have been doing and the roots of our hoteliers. And maybe I can share some example also from the Bergenstock hotels for our Leaders Club clients, meaning our top tier clients. They are organizing priceless experience, souvenir with a craftsman. You are able to design your own watch and meet the craftsman. So you create also a story and again, souvenir. We have all the pillars you mentioned about quiet luxury, privacy, authenticity. We have our Tanda Island in Tanzania, where the motto is no shoes, no news. It's only you disconnected, mindful experience, and also the money can't buy experience, maybe. Having an aperitivo with the owner of the Excelsior Victoria hotels, hotels owned by his family for more than 60 years, that you are at home having an aperitivo. So again, that I think that echo what all you said, and most of our hotels are cracking from the past, from the origin.
But that's very
Again,
deliberate though, and that's maintained, because that is the unique.
Storytelling from the origin or creativeness. So
Well, it's no different than when someone someone buys a very classic car. They keep the patina of the car, and it must be similar.
We are creating a story, and for our guests, so really leveraging and deliver high level standards.
Yeah. So, do you look for that uniqueness? I mean, Fabrice mentioned that, like there's no one else, there's nowhere else in the world. It's totally unique, whether it's a product or whatever. Do you look for that degree of uniqueness for the brand? Is that a kind of like table stakes to get into leading hotels?
I don't think it's one of our assets, and we are not looking for uniqueness. We are more looking for storytelling, something that will really apply for our curious travelers looking for authenticity and to discover new destinations. So that's maybe something that, not available yet on social media could be the right answer.
But it's the strength of that storytelling. It's capturing people's imaginations. Is more important, basically.
Definitely.
Interesting. Now, Marie-Pierre, I'm going to stay with you as the first person to talk on our next topic, which is the digital revolution. It's part of our world now. We can't avoid it, and many companies out there are obviously harvesting more data. They're analyzing, they're using it, and we'll definitely talk about hyper-personalization as part of this. But from your side, from your business, in what ways are you harnessing digital technology? And particularly thinking on the B2B side, your travel trade. I mean, tell us a little bit about how you're adapting to this new digital.
Well, as you can imagine, with 400 hotels in 80 countries, we have so many data, so sometimes it's hard to know where to focus. So we have a team of data analysis that are working on daily basis to share with the sales team where to focus on. And a key client for leading hotel of the world is not only the one who produces the most revenue, but is always also the one who is an ambassador of our brand and supporting all our initiative, working with our pilot. So as you can imagine, it's lots of different source of data to really elect our key clients and the one who will be deliver the most opportunity for our 400 hotels. Huge work.
Yeah, and in terms of from your own perspective, of the work that your professional development, and that's obviously been something that's got to be part of the job now. And have you sort of, as an individual, adapted to that new world?
Well, I think the structure of the team is super important. So to have someone who is able to guide the sales team and to know where to push the action to deliver and maximize the opportunity for our hotels, and that's also the importance of our leaders.
Yeah, and what would you say was the sort of biggest challenge that you've had to overcome? I'm thinking from a corporate side, from an organizational side, in terms of dealing with that change.
I think the organization also of leading hotels is the most challenging part is to work as a team with our hotels, independent hotels, with their sales team, with their own organization, and us as a global tools, I would say. We are tools for our hotels. So it's really to connect and make sure the LHW brands and team are working aligned with each independent hotel. It's not an easy job. It keeps us busy, but it's very interesting. As a personal salesperson, definitely being on property and being on this position now for 4 years is a totally different mindset, and I love that.
Yeah. You actually enjoy getting in amongst them and sort of, I suppose it's partly sort of selling the benefits of these approaches, because I mean there is a sort of hoteliers are perhaps known for being a little bit traditional. Let's say it's an industry which has been sort of considered quite traditional. So you're having to change mindsets as well in introducing this stuff, I guess.
And it's the beauty and the challenge of our organization. Actually, it's really to change the mindset of our hotelier, to work as a team, to be an extension of the team, and to share the majority of information.
Yeah.
Because we work together.
Cool. Now, Antoine, if I can turn to you, obviously Paris Society establishments, it's all about the in-person experience. This is a face-to-face business basically that you're involved in. But what's the scope within that to embrace the sort of the digital world, or how do you do it? Or do you see your establishments really as places to go to escape all that stuff, basically?
No, you're right. We are physical first, and the experience we offer could not be offered on digital and the web. So we do use the digital for two main topics. The first one is to keep contact with our clientele between two visits. We use the digital for that. And the second thing is we use digital as solutions for our booking in our restaurants. I will give you an example, which is Coco, for instance. We do in Coco between 500 and 700 covers a day, 7 days a week, and we receive between 1,000 and 1,400 calls a day, and we are unable to answer. We are unable to answer to all of them, but sometimes we are not full. So we are frustrated on that, and we did develop an app, which is Paris Society app that everyone can download, and that give you on a real time all the free seats everywhere, and you can make your booking like that. And we are today developing a WhatsApp solution. You'll be able to send a WhatsApp to book a table for 4 at Moon, and if we are not able to host you at Moon, you will immediately receive some other solution to book in other places. So that's type of digital solutions that we use, but our experience and guest experience are physical.
Yeah, so it's about sort of removing blockages to people actually being able to access your services. But I suppose the other flip side of digital is social media, and as entertainment presence, particularly quite spectacular, if I may say, entertainment premises from what I've seen looking on your website. Obviously, social media must be a big aspect. You know, you want to be shared, liked. You want people to be putting things on social. Is it a big part of the way you kind of build build these brands?
It is a big part. It is a big part because we are on the luxury segment, which is really specific, and we talk to a community. And this community use the social media to connect and to be recognized. So this is something important. What is interesting today is more than 70% of our clientele is Parisian.
Okay.
That's made us more able to recover after COVID, for instance. We did not wait for international tourists to come back to Paris, and the social media able us to keep this community link.
Was that a surprise to you to see that it was predominantly locals? When you sort of
no, because it was built for that.
Right.
It was built for Parisian, and that's something we are proud of.
I guess it's a clue in the name, Paris Society.
Yeah, that's something we are proud of. Laurent de Gourcuff built Paris Society 25 years ago. We are going internationally till 2 years and a half now. So we have waited a lot to be really mature in our market to go abroad. That make us quite strong. Yeah. And that's something we are proud. We reopened Laurent, which was an institution in Paris, probably the more political and business table for lunch due to the proximity to the Élysée. But this was many years ago a Parisian table where the aristocracy came and party, etc. And this part was quite dead till 20 years now. So where we are proud now is that we make this place shine again for the Parisian audience coming back for dinner, during the weekend, etc.
That's a very deliberate move, basically.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, Fabrice, I know that something you have a great deal of experience of is what you mentioned before about integrating digital, phygital, e-commerce for luxury goods brands. So tell me a little bit about that. I know it's something you know, so like I say, you have a very strong interest in, so and how that's working in this new digital age.
I think it is. It's becoming to be less of a challenge, I would say, for luxury goods brands, meaning luxury retail. I think it's becoming right now a real challenge for luxury hospitality. And I think actually, and not to to go too far, I would say on this point, but I think that luxury retail going to hospitality is probably much more equipped. With all these physical and digital strategies, just because they went through this. And they went through this, point number one, from a brand reputation, and they faced many challenges. Let me tell you just two or three things. The hospitality sector, like the luxury retail sector, are addressing very different types of customers. From again, the Gen Z and the millennials to the boomer and the Gen X. Again, the Gen X and the boomer has the money. The boomer has the time and can spend a lot, huge amounts of money on traveling, just because again, he's free to do this, etc. This customer doesn't like so much the windows popping up on his screen when he wants to book online on every single website of a hotel, for instance. Yep. He usually wants to go either in his travel agency, like in the old times, or just call a number, which is exactly what you were saying before. In the meantime, you need to address this new generation. I took my first business class ticket probably when I was 35 years old. Young people now at 25 want to go to New York in business class or in premium economy. That's the new thing,
Yeah.
and they don't care, and why not? But again, we're addressing very different personalities. When we were young, say on this stage, our main topic was to build a family, buy an apartment, put some money aside, etc., etc. The young generation is not into this just because they can't afford to buy things, and there is a new culture now which is more about circularity and usage more than buying and owning things, etc. So when you speak to these customers, it's very different. When you deal with phygital, you can do beautiful things. I'm thinking out of my head of the Veuve Clicquot Byron Bay hotel, which is a nice pop-up, I would say, a nice spot. That's great.
Yeah.
So to come back on the initial point, I think that how do you maintain and preserve the exclusivity and the prestige of your hotel, having to deal with different channels, with some phygital strategies, some digital strategies, that's not easy. And how do you want to even more maintain and preserve the luxury experience online, which is not easy with a hotel. It's somehow easier with a luxury brand at some point, I would say. But for hotel booking and you can put some videos, etc. But it's not so easy. I mean, it's not life. It's not real life, I would say. So it's not easy. I think as well, brands and luxury hotels, like luxury retail brands, very good similarity again, have to be very careful about the brand integrity. And everything which is about counterfeiting on website and attempt to integrity, everything goes viral very quickly, as we know. The least issue is amplified like no time before, and can be super detrimental to your brand image. And this is where I come back to what I said earlier, which is luxury brands are usually much more accustomed, I would say, to these kind of issues. A specific hotel of the leading of the world group, although probably super equipped and say with a geek, managing the website, will be completely lost. A luxury hospitality group like the names we discussed before would have the backup, I would say, to immediately react. And that's an asset, I would say, that needs to be worked on. And that's not easy when you've got such a crowd, I would say, of people. So you need to be careful as well to address these different customers to have a balance between your online and your offline presence. It will be different because of the target of customer that you have. And you can't just play, one point for all, I would say, and one strategy for all. That's not going to work.
Yeah.
You need as well, in some cases, and it's sometimes very close, to look at the cultural and the regulations that apply to you when you've got a website in luxury hospitality as well as in luxury retail. Let's take an example I know pretty well, which is Switzerland. I was not able to create a website in Switzerland because it's not Europe, and it's just like an hour away from Paris, and it's so specific that the cost of implementation of a specific website in Switzerland let us make the decision to just not do anything and just privilege much more offline. So I could go further, but one point that is interesting and probably for the audience as well is the fact that there is as well a kind of what I call an educating principle for the customers, and the customers for me are twofold. The external customer, which is the final client, but it's as well the internal customer, which are the staff. And we tend to forget this, but I can tell you that we've got, and I'm sure we have so many examples of fantastic staff members having been 20, 25 years in luxury hospitality, and being on the web or using the internet and just managing, I would say, all these principles is very new and very difficult. And they need to be trained and they need to be coached, and that's not a small thing, I would say. Yeah. And this is where again, luxury retail brands are probably a bit in advance, I would say, compared to luxury hospitality, which has to catch up. But again, there are a lot of bridges to build between these two businesses, which are just working very well alongside one another.
And if I can just jump in, Marie-Pierre, obviously you were nodding there, about that.
I'm echoing that, and as you said, lots of bridges, and we can see right now in the way we recruit our staff. We have lots of people coming from retails, and it was actually the reverse 20 years ago. So
interesting.
That's really something.
And what do they bring, especially if they're coming from that retail side?
They are more
the digital savvy.
Exactly, and
really?
they are ready also. To
I'm going to give you one example. When I joined in 2015, a luxury jeweler, we were registering the customers on a paper with a pen. 2 years later, we had iPads, iPhones, and this is current now, meaning that luxury hospitality is really lagging behind, I would say. I'm not saying they don't have this, but in luxury retail, this has been on since like 5, 6, 7 years. So again, easy to catch up, but you need to have upfront investment, which some brands and some groups will be able to make, some others won't be able to make it. Yeah. And that's going to be probably a challenge in the coming years.
Yeah.
And the last point is, on sustainability and ethical principles. I think that hospitality has done many things. But it's such a huge cost. Let's speak about a luxury resort, in beautiful Africa. I mean, how do you want to make this resort sometimes sustainable, if in the meantime you've got the pressure of the high-end customer and client attending, a session and being, swimming in the pool, who wants to have X, Y, Z, etc. But it needs to be sustainable. So that's a huge pressure on the luxury hospitality sector.
Yeah, and it's something we'll definitely talk about for sure, because it's a big deal. And ladies and gents, I would just say in a couple of minutes' time, I will be opening up the floor to questions. So if you'd like to be thinking about some interesting questions to ask our panel, you'll get a chance, in just a handful of minutes. But Fabrice, you've started us on sustainability. I think obviously is a massive, it's a sort of the elephant in the room. It's the thing that we all have to think about, not just luxury and hospitality. It's right across the whole corporate sector. I'll start with you, actually, Marie-Pierre, if I may. Do you think your sector, hospitality, is adapting quickly enough to this new paradigm?
I think your answer already. What you said about your website in Switzerland, that's something we are facing with sustainability. Imagine 400 hotels, 18 countries, the rules, the regulation, the labels are different everywhere. So last year we decided to launch our Sustainability Leaders Program under the umbrella of worldwide label, global green key. And we had 50 hotels joining us last year. Today we are already 80 hotels and more to come. But as I mentioned, it's a difficult balance to adjust. And as you said, when you have a luxury guest who is asking for turn down twice a day, and you know that to be sustainable and your standard is only once a day, it's not for tomorrow, but in the near future.
And is it almost impossible with 80 different countries involved for you to set global standards? Presumably the answer is yes.
That's why
how
80 hotels already out of the 400.
How far down the line of global standards can you go, or in terms of, does it become an advisory thing? Or is it just impossible?
We will see. The future will answer us, but right now we know that we are not able to answer each country's legislation, but also each guest request and desire. So it's a work in progress.
Yeah,
I would say.
And is there something that you've done?
Year.
Is there something you've done on an organisational level,
Yeah.
understanding that you are particularly sort of pleased with or proud of? What's probably the biggest achievement that you've done so far?
Regarding the sustainability, so we have of course the local engagement, the community engagement, and the environment. If I have one example, maybe from one of our hotel in Chile, the Nayara Alto, they are really investing into the community, and they dedicate time and money to make sure that the young generation are able to finish high school. So that's something we can point out, and we have this example in the C pillars.
So if you like, that's the S of ESG. I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about with the social. Yeah, exactly.
But one thing on ESG and everything which is sustainability, the norms are changing every month. So we at Roland Berger have some people in Brussels to make sure that basically when we are currently advising a client, we're not going to advise a client on something which will be wrong in 3 weeks' time. So, I'm just thinking about, hospitality or even luxury retail. So, it's almost that you need to take a subscription so that basically you're just, kept up to date, every month on what's happening, etc. That's just like ridiculous to a certain standard. One thing that, we need to think of as well, because I think this is the future as well of luxury, which is residential luxury hospitality, and it's booming actually. Thanks to sometimes, some say fiscal, advantages in some countries, France being one, but not only. Italy is very strong on this. And I think that, this luxury hospitality is just a detail, I would say, but to echo what you just said, Marina, can you imagine some people being in a nice, chalet in Courchevel or Marie-Pierre? And this is wintertime. Actually, in wintertime, you can find some pears and some apples, but the guys want some, red fruits and things coming from South America. This is not really sustainable. And at the end of the day, this is the client's wish. So, and hotels are facing exactly the same, challenge. So, and this is one part only of sustainability. We could speak about, the wood, of course, used to build the chalet, and etc., etc.
And energy
it's a
usage,
complex matter.
and
it is a complex
water
matter.
recycling. It's across the piece. I mean, Antoine, from your point of view, as massively guest focused, the guest, I'm guessing, is king for you. So picking up on what Fabrice was saying about, you can't always, or it's a difficult balance between sustainability and what the guest wants. How are you guys dealing with that at Paris Society? What's your approach?
First of all, I think we can all be proud of us, the hospitality sector. I think we are not moving only in response to that. We are taking initiative, and there are lots of things that are do by all the sectors. So that's something great. I think the answer, you're right, is different from a country to another. We are moving in Paris Society. We are a young company. So we have less habits than old ones. We are moving for our customer, but we are also moving for our staff. I will give you 2 examples of things we did. We are working only with fresh products, fruits and vegetables, only seasonal, and we are 100% organic now till 2 years. Why did we do that? Because we, as manager, we really trust that is the future. And we are not telling that to our guests. We are not telling that to our guests because they are not able to hear so many different subjects. We cannot be the more luxury, the more festive, the more cool, the more trendy, and the more sustainable. Maybe in hotel, because when you are in a hotel for 2 days, 1 week, or more, you have time to hear different type of messages. When you are in a restaurant for 2 hours, you cannot hear all these messages. So we do move, but we do move also because we trust in what we are doing for our kids, for our future, and that was going on 100% organic was something very important for the kitchen staff, for instance, more than for our guests, because we don't say that to our guests.
So there's a kind of employee satisfaction, employee engagement aspect to it, which maybe the guest doesn't see. Yeah. Excellent. Now, ladies and gents, it's your turn, because I'm going to throw the forum open to audience questions. I'm not sure. Have we got our microphone person around? If not, I'll run out with a microphone. Basically, if anyone has a question, please put up your hand, and we will get a microphone to you. That gentleman over there. Thank you.
I have a question about the luxury retail that is moving to hospitality. So, for example, a hotel that's opening in Paris, it'll eat away at your business, right? And a big decision in how the younger generation is choosing is social satisfaction, where they look more cool. So, for example, how do you compete with a Louis Vuitton hotel, which will eat away at your business when it launches?
Who'd like to go for that one?
A good question, but hard to answer from our leading point of view. As I mentioned, we are not looking to compete with all these brands. We are more here to answer a need of our hotelier. So if an hotelier is coming and say, actually, it will be more this question: why leading hotels of the world as a brand more than Louis Vuitton? And leading hotels as a brand is not for all owners, but is really for the one who want to keep their independence, to keep the name, to brand, to keep the brand living and not to be stopped by some standards of big names, of big groups. And the clients, again, is the one we are looking for, is a curious traveler who wants to discover new destination and wants to have an authentic experience. That will be my answer to your very tough question.
Yeah, and is it also a case of like not necessarily cannibalizing the market, but growing the market, bringing new people in?
Exactly. When I'm seeing two examples. When the low cost arrived 25 years ago in the travel industry, everyone say that all the airplane company will struggle. No, that increased the number of travelers. When Airbnb arrived, we were fear as hotelier to say the hotelier will suffer a lot. No, that increased the number of people traveling. So this is, as what I was saying previously, this is a very good opportunity for the sector. This is a very good opportunity for everyone, and this is a very good opportunity as a guest.
Yeah. Fabrice, your final word on that?
Yeah, I totally agree with what has been said. I think it's really different, client types. And there is some room for everyone. And I think what it will bring, all these new luxury brands being into hospitality, it will help actually the hospitality sector. Because usually when you've got some newcomers, it represents an opportunity to have some companies working on some key points that are needed by both. I'm thinking AI, I'm thinking machine learning for all the loyalty systems, for instance. I'm thinking virtual reality, augmented reality. And for the time being, you've got a very small number of players. Because of these newcomers, there will be more, which will benefit to both the big guys meaning the luxury brands coming in hospitality, but they usually are pretty well equipped internally, I would say. But it will benefit as well to the other players, meaning the leading of the world, for instance, owners, or even maybe to a certain extent to Paris Society, group of companies. So I think everyone will benefit, but it's new, and I think it's really for us. We see it as a new start and as a huge opportunity for the luxury hospitality sector, that these newcomers are coming at this point, which is a key point, again, after the roaring 20s for luxury, and in the middle of an IT revolution with, everything which is about, augmented reality, virtual reality, which has touched a little bit luxury retail, virtual try-on, for instance. You can as well, do it directly from your laptop if this is for fashion. But this will come as well to luxury hospitality, and it came already in some of the groups present there. So it's huge opportunity for everyone.
But let me add something quickly. I think the challenge is also for them and for these retail brands. They are very strong legs to go in hospitality, but they could do mistake, and sometimes they are doing mistakes. They are doing mistake for two main reasons for me. The first thing is because running a hotel or running a restaurant is not easy. And the second thing is they are playing with marketing, and sometimes they are playing too much with marketing. What we saw last summer in Saint-Tropez with all the beaches, with cover, there was a Fendi beaches, Loro Piana beaches, Jacques Mus beaches, etc., with no content. Only nice umbrellas, nice towels, nice design, no content. And that's a danger for them to go with marketing approach and to forget that in our hospitality they need to go with authenticity and experience. They know how to do, but they need to be prudent at that point.
Cool. I think that's a very good point. I would be very careful about many one-offs that we can see right now. It's nice, it's beautiful, it's powerful, but will it last?
Yeah, okay. We've got perhaps time for one more audience question. Who else has a question for the panel? Just pop your hand up. Yep, just pass the microphone back there. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much. I work in a luxury retail brand, and so I'm very interested about how luxury is responding to digital disruptions. Especially recently, last week, like Matches Fashions go into administration, and a few years ago, Net-a-Porter, all this e-commerce brand booming, and then recently it's all really going really badly now. So where is it going, especially in terms of like omni-channel, like e-commerce? How can luxury retail brand really equip ourselves to lead us to a way that is benefiting of this sort of trend? Yeah.
Okay. Fabrice, do you want to start?
I think we could discuss for a long time.
Should we restart the panel?
I'm going to be very short. I think that, what happened many years ago now is that luxury brands wanted to go online. They didn't really know how to do this. Some, clever guys, being in startups, which became licorns very quickly, had this, opportunity, I would say, and actually built fantastic businesses, which at a point became kind of, either you go through them or you don't do anything. And, the luxury brands were just lagging behind. They had concentrated on, expanding the network of stores, modernizing, reviewing exactly the way they welcome actually customers in stores, etc. So there was kind of a piggyback time. Until when, of course, COVID came, and then as internally, all these brands have built as well some capacity in terms of online, etc. Remember that we've never been so much online than during the pandemic, of course. So it pushed them artificially, but it pushed them nicely. And I think, because of the inflation, etc., but many other factors, now is the time probably that, and many luxury groups are doing it, are just taking back this online principle for one reason as well, which is they want to control their brand, they want to control their reputation, and they know that even if everything is nicely, signed and done, there is always a risk when it's not internal.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Do either of you have a take on that? But we're pretty much out of time. So I think I'll probably just wrap up by thanking you, Antoine, Marie-Pierre, and Fabrice for all of those wonderful insights. I hope everyone's really enjoyed that. And that's not just the end of this panel. That actually wraps up our panel program for today. So not just these three, but I'd like to thank all of our expert panelists who've shared their thoughts with us. I hope everyone who's been here in the various sessions today and all of those who are joining us online have found quite a lot to inspire and interest them during the course of today's session. So on behalf of the Vendôm Company and Glion, I thank everyone for being part of Excellence 2024. And in particular, ladies and gentlemen, please show your appreciation for Marie-Pierre, Antoine, and Fabrice. Thanks, everybody.